Welcome. Namaste, beautiful souls. Welcome to my channel. My name is Sadhana. If you're new, just popping in, hello. I'm a tarot reader and been here for a while sharing lots of content about tarot and tarot reading, among other things. And so, no, you're welcome. This is a dive into the Tyldwick Tarot, which is a beautiful world in a old Victorian estate full of nooks and crannies and wonderful things to explore. And today we are going to look at, again, at the Empress as well as the Queens and do a little bit of comparison among the threes as well as the pages, and just really capture the energy here. We will then move into do a similar thing like 2 weeks with the Emperor and the fours, and then look at the Emperor and the Kings, and then cross compare these cards because it's really interesting. So hello Clevis, Jonathan, namaste, aloha. The Empress and the Queens are all in this glorious garden, these glorious gardens, and there is an abundance of greenery. Now, I said last week that I was going to look for all the cards with green in them, and I realized that just wasn't going to work. So that's why I took a different direction today, in case you were expecting a green theme today. There is in a way, but I just took a different approach. Tamian, namaste, welcome. So these are the four queens along with the Empress in the center, and we'll look at some of the details of these one by one, as well as a set of cards to get familiar with this tarot. And I think long before I get through all of the cards, do some readings, because as I mentioned last week, I think the only way to know how this deck is going to work is in reading it. Now in the court cards, so in the Empress card we have a statue, and in the court cards we have portraits. Some of these portraits look almost like you would see them in Hogwarts, with the faces moving, like you would see them in a dark night in a hallway, and wonder if faces could move from one portrait to another. I just kind of get that feeling. But there is sort of an opulence to these gardens, and let's just go into the Queen of Staves here. I cannot move my camera. I'm still in a state of technical confusion, doing my best to muddle through here. So I feel this is, and I continue to have, I have so many things to share with you. I'm learning a lot in a very short period of time. And I'm doing prep as well for Facebook group, which is watching lots of videos on cartomancy as far as reading, playing cards. And I'm starting to understand that Joe really picked up on a lot of systems when he was creating this deck, or when they were creating this deck. And there's something kind of very intuitive about the way that this wants to be read. I feel in all of these, I mean, you could view them as thrones, I suppose, but they feel more like something you would see in a High Priestess card, something you would see in a Hierophant card, the way the archways, the way we have a left and a right pillar. They're very, I guess, stately, right? Opulent. The greenery is in full, it's lush and it's rich, and the plants really match the energy of the element. So the plant for this particular one is called Dragon's Tongue Fern, and there's also bulrushes, and these feel very like something I would see canoeing in the summer on the lake, at least where I live. Like they're almost take on they're not succulents, but they're not, this is not the kind of fern I would find walking in the forest now in the winter. Let's say that. It's a different kind of plant, and the coloration around the garden and the parquet background, the parquet tile, if you would call it that, on the back wall, all sort of fits in with the energy of fire. And yet, so I want to get the three of staves, which is right here. And let's just do this. I'm still struggling with the square nature. Now, granted, there is a rounded archway here, but I'm feeling, and the nature of the plants, the way everything is set so perfectly, I'm still struggling with the lack of fluidity in the threes and the queens. They feel very formal. And maybe that is me just wanting something a little different than I would expect in the Kings and the Emperor. Now, the difference between the Kings and the Emperor, the difference between the Kings and the Queens is that the Kings look from in to out, whereas the Queens are all outside. The Empress is outside. So there's this connection to Mother Earth that definitely is there. What is overhead in this one? Griffins. Okay, griffins. So that feels fiery, for sure. It feels strong. When I think about Queen of Staves, I also think about the sexual nature of this particular court. And if we could see them a little more close up, perhaps I'd get that from the bulrushes, that sort of energy. And what is on the, what is below the portrait? That is something I need to figure out, because that might help to also build in connection. There is a water feature, a fountain. Okay. And so this is another question, and I don't know if you have checked this out. Is there water in all of the Queen's fountains? Aloha, Heather. Is there water in all of the Queen's fountains? So that's something that I will check out. So yeah, so that is a personal sort of thing. Like there's a, I don't know what word adjective to use. I just feel like these cards are just a little too square for me. And I don't mean nerdy, okay? So let's go on to the cups and look at the Three of Cups, which we looked at last week, and the Queen. So again, both of them are outside. Right? These are Three of Cups, Queen of Cups. They look so cool, like the air is so cool. I know it's probably like that in England, or if this is where this is. Do you imagine this is in England or France? Do you have a setting for this? Do you have a country in mind? That's something I'm really curious about. Like, where do you imagine this estate being? If you live in the UK, if you live in rural EU, in rural Europe, where would this be? I mean, there would be nothing like this in Canada. I would never see anything like this. And I'm aware of where, Joe and Neil are from, but there's definitely a formality to the whole scene here. Okay, so I was noting that, so something I felt in this particular card, and I'm starting to shift my opinion, and I know Tamian commented on this last week, and that is that the estate feels a little deserted. But when I look at this particular card, I think, okay, this is a pretty well-maintained garden. Somebody's definitely there. So the reason I was thinking is that if birds are actually nesting and babies are hatching, that it's likely gardeners, hi Linda, would move the nests, maybe not, I don't know. The level of protection. So maybe this is something else. Do queens protect? Is that an adjective you would assign to them? The Three of Cups is protected by a gate. These gardens all feel very protected, like they are a secret garden, and they are a walled garden. To me, they have that sort of energy. Okay, I just want to get to the plant names that are on the Queen of Cups. So here we have lilies. Lilies are often equated with lotuses, so that works really well as a water feature. And I'm assuming that, oh, come on, zoom in, Sadhana. There is a water. I don't see the flowiness of water here, but there is, I believe, a water feature in the foreground. So there's a lily pond in front of, so in the foreground, that is a lily pond. So far, yes, in two of these queens, we have water. And so that, I really like that. And I'm hoping that in the kings, I can find a quality of fire, if that is the affinity that's being assigned to the kings. Okay. I see, okay, let's go here. I see use the connection of sanctuary with the queens. Ah, sanctuary. You know what, Tamian? I like that. Why I like that is because I feel that the queens provide a, yeah, that's true, lilies and purity. Queens establish the environment in which the element can thrive. Queens provide a space for the element to thrive. So the Queen of Wands truly supports the energy of fire. And the Queen of Cups provides this beautiful pond and watery garden, right? For the element of water to be enjoyed, to be absorbed. So sanctuary works really, I like that, works really well there. My eyes are adjusting and starting to more. I used to struggle with this deck, and that the more that I look at the details of the cards and the more that I line up associated cards, the more I can start to see how things fit together. Okay, so we have quite a few different opinions here. So we have England, and then Jonathan said England or France. Maybe Germany. And French vibe. Clevis says French vibe. A cloister. Yeah, I do. I feel like there's a level of protection. So then let's go back. Maybe this makes sense then, because last week I was wrestling with the protected ship. Why is the ship protected? It just felt very boxy and very masculine, very emperorish, very fourish on the square chest. So maybe maybe the queens. I like the word sanctuary. So let's continue to build that vocabulary. Let's look at the sword iteration here. And this one I think is my favorite because of the connection to music. Music. I love when in swords suits we see musical instruments, and this to me really has a Saraswati vibe. The music, when I think of the goddess Saraswati, I think of beautiful pond. She's playing her harp. There's a beautiful sound. The music is of this really rich frequency, high frequency, and yeah. So this particular pool has a lot of overgrown reeds, greenery in this, and then we actually see birds, flamingos here. So live living flamingos. There's a harp on the right. Is there a harp on the left as well too? And I'm assuming among all those reeds there is water. So water feature. And just before I forget, let's look at the other one. I'm just going to look at the pentacles and see if I can see the water feature. I just need to make sure that it's there. Yeah, there's water. So it might be a little murky, but it's there. Okay. So that's clear. So Saraswati, the goddess, and this is really interesting. So those of you, I don't think anyone's here that was in the class today. And Mary Beth, if you're watching this, watching the playback, that article, that the Zabriskie article that you sent, and we were spending time connecting goddesses to various queens. This one I just love this frequency, and I think Queen of Swords, I can hear her in a not opera, but like singing sacred music while she plays the harp. You know, that kind of the colors here make me think of white silk. There's just something really elegant in this card. I love this queen. Yeah. There was one other association. There's a head or something. The head of a Greek philosopher. So again, this really fits beautifully with mind and thought and philosophy and high frequency of the queen. So there's a real elegance to this card. A lyre. Yeah. Yeah, I love the elegance there. And then the other queen, here she is. I moved her. And this is the Three of Coins and the Queen of Coins. And then I'll put the Empress back on the table. One of the adjectives I used to describe the Empress was a fierceness, you know, like I feel like I'm standing before some great goddess, whereas with the queens, there is this space, this sacred space. I'm going to use your word, Tamian, sanctuary, in which to appreciate the elements. And this pond that is in the foreground here feels very comfortable. Feels very comfortable. Okay, and going back to the Queen of Swords, Brigitte as well, goddess of inspiration and poets. It's funny, you know, Brigitte has so many associations also with fire as well too. And I think with water and birthing, or is she the virgin? Yeah. But you know what I want to say is it's important we each build this repertoire of associations so that our vocabulary with each of these cards, and not just in this deck, increases. I feel a close association between the type of garden we see in the Queen of Pentacles, and yet there's a real difference in that the Empress, and I probably just tried to describe this last week too. It's like it's a little further off in the distance, and it's a little bit intimidating to approach. Yeah, a little bit intimidating to approach. So let's go to the earth, because I've pulled the pages out too, and I want to see if we can compare and contrast the pages and get a general vibe for the pages. And if there is a more of a lightness to them, what's the general sense of them? So if the garden of the queens, if the fountain of the queens, the area that the queen card holds in the Tyldwick estate is a little more opulent and quiet, we would move into it as a sanctuary, then how would you describe the pages? And when I was looking at these 4 cards, I'm thinking, okay, they feel more daytime, more like summer. There's a lightness to them. Like you could have a cup of tea in this garden, or you could oh, what did you say? A cooking garden where food is grown. Is that what you meant for the pages, Clevis? Um, where I imagine going into the Garden of the Queens and being in a really peaceful and serene state. Not a place where I would socialize. But in the page gardens, we might play a game. We might have a cup of tea. Oh, the Queen of Pentacles. Okay. Got you. Okay, thanks, Clevis. Yeah, we could have a cup of tea. We could play a game. There might be some social activity going on. That's sort of how I felt a different energy here. Now, if pages are connected to the element of earth, I'm not sure that I can bring this in here. Other differences are that we seem to have more stuff going on the top of the archways, where in the queen cards it's cleaner, but in the pages you see how it's more ornate at the top, and I don't know if you would describe that as more playful, more decorative. Clevis, page gardens are these little gardens next to sitting rooms. Yeah, and you can almost feel this, especially with this one here. It's like, and I love the sun on the floor. You could enter into these gardens, put your robe on, get up in the morning. Your servant, I don't know what the word is, your person would bring you your cup of coffee. Yeah, so let's go into some of these details. I'm gonna do them backwards, just scrolling through the PDF if I need here. What do we have here? So in the Page of Coins, simple garden, semi-wild plants, and over on the right, so I don't know if you can see here. What if we use the glass? Sorry, it's really hard to, I'm looking. Is that just a pile of wood? Mm. Yeah, you know, Tamian, the queens invoke serenity. So um, the queens invoke serenity. So the pages they have that? Can we think of a word that's not chaotic? You know, it's more vivacious, more playful. Kleba says they are ornate because they are small. Pages tops are chaotic. I see it as messier thoughts, still figuring out who they are. And I could actually see the page of Earth getting a little bit dirty here, and if there were children here, these would be approachable. I don't know. Pages are more personal gardens. Okay, yeah, that's a good description. Okay, anything standing out in the Page of Swords? It actually is a bit hard to focus on this one. So the Page of Swords, sorry, I just need to zoom in, look at my screen here. Okay, so birds. Ooh, I know something else too. Where's the three? Where are the threes? No, that one doesn't match. I was just thinking because this card seems to match somehow, but that's Three of Cups. Okay. And in the Page of Swords, there in the statuary, so if you look really closely at the statuary, I see somebody, I don't know if you see it, doing this sort of a gesture, like they're whispering a secret, or they are playing a game where, you make this kind of a gesture, you hide your mouth, and that's kind of fun. That fits there. That fits there really well. I believe there is a description of peacocks here as well in this one. And if it's interesting, I have a real liking for the swords gardens in this deck. Peacocks in my little world are associated with the Vishnu temples in India. And there's a sense of there's a precision. There's a precision with the energy of these temples. Very airy, very vata. And yeah, it works. It definitely works for me. Okay, now the Page of Cups is quite fancy. Her garden, that's for sure. Okay, I'm just going to scroll back and have a look at her garden up close. Okay, so there's a lot going on over the top of the wall as well. And lots of flowers, tons of flowers, potted flowers here. And this one is described as a reflecting pool. So if you think about a weight smith, Page of Cups, and that idea, also Queen of Cups, right? There's that idea that the Queen of Cups is looking deeply into her cup that is covered, but this reflecting pool here in this really kind of vivacious, that's not the right word, blooming. If you have the PDF, zoom in a lot on this card. It's very colorful. It's children would love this garden. They might slip on the tile. But they're kind of sweet, right? It's kind of sweet. And it's very much in contrast to the Page of Staves, who this one feels again, I get a masculine vibe with this energy. The fire it's very powerful, especially that solar design on the floor. And this one could be indoors for me. Even though you can see the plants that are growing up on the outside, it has a, yeah, it must be outside though. Is that fearsome? How about fearsome? Is that a good way to describe it? Fearsome. And if you contrast this one, let's look at the page and the queen of each suit. Okay. So there's the page, the queen, and then there's the 3. So maybe the pages are also they're not so solid. Not so solid. Children will wade in, yeah. I was going to say it's littler. It's littler. It's just more approachable. It's not one of those gardens that it's not a formal place that we can't gather in. Okay. I will come back to the pages in the future. So let's look at these 3, the cups. And you can start to really feel the energy of the color. The only thing with this deck is though that 3 of Cups to me feels really chilly, really cold. The cups in general have a cool air to them. So I'm waiting. I'm hoping that the cups, I will find more warmth in them. And I know the fire is warm for sure. And the pentacles are warm. And maybe that's just the nature of water. Maybe that's just its nature. I don't know. Okay, let's go to swords. So here is the 3. And this is my Saraswati card. And where is my junior Saraswati? Where is she gone? Is this her? It's getting dark where I am. Yes, this is her. I wonder as well too, in the page cards, there's almost an invitation to look beyond, over the wall. I don't know. I'm going to keep, while the queens are outside, they're in the sanctuary, they're in the contained garden. The page gardens are more approachable and more accessible. But there's imagine If you know anything about Tree of Life associations, and the page is down at the Sephira, in Malkut, and the pages are on the middle pillar, and the pages shoot directly up the middle pillar, and they look towards Keter, they look towards the sky, they look towards the light. And I'm feeling like the pages have their eye on the light, have their eye on spirit. Just something I picked up on in that one. So here's the Three of Pentacles, the page, sorry, coins, and the Queen. I don't think will be reading with this deck in reverse. There's so much. It wouldn't make sense to read with this deck in reverse for me. I don't know. I guess what I'm sensing is that in the pages, what is in the distance is more in focus. So there's an invitation to look beyond. That's what I'm saying. Okay. Okay. So I think the big picture thing here is that these court cards are outside. They're outside, and there is a frequency to this. We started with this in the I started with this in the opening, the first episode. There's a clear feeling in this deck of the differences between inside and outside, of containment and freedom, of what lies in the foreground, the midground, and the distance. And I want to keep doing my best to observe that, even though things are not always entirely in focus. So thank goodness for my magnifying glass and the PDF. But let me know other observations that I may have missed in these cards, and then next week we'll look at the fours and the Emperor. Okay. And then maybe compare the Empress and the Emperor and the kings and the queens. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Take good care. I'll see you soon. Namaste.